Well, how much do you keep in the cloud? Cloud computing is becoming a more popular way to store data. Information is encrypted on a remote server that can be accessed from a smartphone, tablet or computer.
You will no longer have to carry your documents around with you. Instead, you'll be able to access them from any connected device.
Email applications have been using the formula for years. While it's an attractive option for businesses because they can use cloud facilities based on demand, meaning less hardware is needed. But what about the risks? Could that crucial data that's stored disappear? For more, I spoke to Rob Livingstone. He's a fellow at Sydney's University of Technology and has written a book on the topic titled Navigating Through the Cloud. To start off, I asked him to run through the main advantages of cloud computing.
Well, if you look at cloud computing, the main thing with cloud computing is that it's not on your computer. I guess that's a probably fairly broad definition. And someone else takes care of all the difficult things like backups and having to worry about managing PCs and other infrastructure. So it's really abstracted away behind your internet browser typically, and that's where it's very powerful, and it also reaches out into mobile devices, you know, iPhones or whatever. So it becomes universally accessible.
What about the dangers? We're seeing outages at centres before holding data.
Yep.
Are cloud computing platforms at risk as well?
Yes, they are. I think at the heart of it, it boils down to what is the value of the information you're storing in the cloud. I mean, if it's really not that important to you, you can tend to be a bit relaxed about doing, really reading the T's and C's and whatever. And if there's an availability issue, that's fine. You can live without your, Dropbox or your particular file system or whatever just for a couple of hours. But if it's really mission critical to you, either as an individual or a business, from a confidentiality point of view, or from a availability point of view, you have to do your due diligence.
Well, for businesses, it obviously means fewer hardware costs. But what about security for them?
Well, security is a continual cat and mouse. I mean, if you look at cyber criminal is now a multi-billion-dollar industry in its own right with organised crime syndicates, and they've got the money and resources to resource up with the best brains on the dark side, if you will. And it basically, it is ultimately a cat and mouse. There will always be vulnerabilities in one form or another, and how they're exploited is really up to the vendor to make sure that they are ahead of the game.
And how will the NBN affect cloud services? What will it do for, like, data storage?
Well, there's two things. Data storage typically, it's relatively static. It's only when you're transporting the data, say from your own data center or your own PC into the cloud, that if you had to wait 2 days to get your, 1 terabytes of home videos or whatever into the cloud, with the NBN, clearly it makes it a lot faster. One of the key things with the delivery of cloud services is that it is an absolute critical component of that, certainly in the public arena, where you need high-speed internet. And without high-speed internet, the cloud becomes somewhat, slow, much slower and less user-friendly.
Well, we've been asking what you think about cloud computing. On Facebook, Jason says, couldn't live without it. Ashley says, I use both, but only for uni assignments, so I'm not that concerned about security. Lynn says, I use cloud for some services, but not much though, just don't understand enough about it. And on Twitter, James says, yes, he's embraced it. Security in the cloud is a huge concern to Australian organisations. Let us know what you think on Facebook or using the NX hashtag on Twitter.